接下来我们要邀请到的是法国巴黎市政府创新和创意产业事务局局长 Mr. Francois Moreau. Mr. Francois Moreau, please join us on the stage. Head of Higher Education, Research, Innovation, and Creative Industry Service, City of Paris.
Hi everybody, I'm very glad to be here, and it's an honor for me to represent the City of Paris. I really want to thank the City of Dachau government to invite me today. I also want to thank the previous speakers. That was very interesting this morning. And I of course want to thank you all to listening to me today. So as you understood, I work for the City of Paris, and when you think about Paris, I guess that you might first think about the city of love, the city of art, the city of museums, the city of food. Well, Paris is all that, of course, but Paris is, and for a very long time, also an innovative city, a city of entrepreneurs. Well, entrepreneur is a French word, by the way. And I don't know if you've heard that, but in Europe we say that Paris is the city of lights, because it's one example of how Paris has been always an innovative city. It was one of the first cities to have lights in every street and further electric lights in Paris. So we have a great history of innovation in Paris, and it's also a great academic city with a lot of universities, of researchers, of students. We had already 63 Nobel Prizes. So, well, that makes Paris a little bit different maybe than the image of the romantic city that you have. So this will be my challenge today. I hope that after this presentation you will think about other things when you think about Paris. So my presentation will be in three parts. First part is where we are now. I mean, why is Paris so attracting for innovators and entrepreneurs? Second part is what we did in the last 10 years to get there, to be in a vibrant ecosystem. And the third part will be what are our goals for the future. So let's begin to fight the cliches about Paris. According to a very recent international study by an American consulting firm, Paris ranks first in Europe for the innovation. But you know, these rankings, they mix a lot of different factors. So I don't know if we can really rely on them, but let's stick to more basic figures. For example, the number of startups in the Paris region, we say more than 10,000, which is a big number, but again, who can say really how many startups we have? I guess that London or Berlin can say they have also a lot of startups. So we can watch more easy to measure a number, which is the number of fundraising actions and startups. This is really real, and we are now for the second year the first city in Europe for the number of fundraising actions. Another figure easy to measure is the number of patents, and you can see that Paris is again the first city in Europe for the number of patents. Well, you have a lot of other figures here. I won't read everything because it will be a little bit boring, but of course, if anyone is interested by the presentation, I'll give it to you. Just ask me, please. But what I would like you to keep in mind about Paris is that it's a metropolis of 12 million people. That is really the city in Europe for academic, for the number of researchers, of students, of Nobel Prizes, as I said. And of course that is key for entrepreneurship, because with more educated people, you have more workforce to be entrepreneurs or to employ people in innovative companies. If we have a look to the ranking in the world for Paris, you see that there are other studies, recent studies for international consulting firms that put Paris in the third place for example, its intellectual capital and innovation. I mentioned it before. For foreign investment, according to KPMG, for disruptive innovation. So I don't know if we can really believe these rankings, but the fact that we have several of them, I think it's a good indicator of how things change now in Paris in the tech and innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem. Other important strengths I want to mention about Paris is that Paris is the first city in the world for tourism, and that makes many opportunities for entrepreneurs. That's why we created a fully dedicated incubator to the tourism sector with already 30 to 40 different startups, so it's a real success in that incubator for tourism. Paris is also leader for the business tourism, and we invest a lot of public money in it to remain at the top, so we invest in the infrastructures. And for example, last week we opened the biggest exhibition hall in Europe for business conventions. And Paris is also interesting for its geographical place in Europe, because it's really in the heart of the Western Europe market. You have great train connections, you have an airport with still slots, capacities for new flights. We're investing a lot of money again in the suburban train all around Paris for 25 billion euros, so it's a big amount of money. This is a French government initiative called La French Tech. So it's been mentioned this morning. It's based on the simple idea that something happened in the last years in Paris with the creation of more and more startups. And so the French government tried to make that notice more well-known in the world. So they designed that brand, the French Tech, with that logo. And maybe it's better to show you a short video than speak about it. Okay, sorry. Can anyone? Works on the computer. I don't know how to put it on the screen. Yes, you can play it. Just that it doesn't go on there. Sorry for that.
A group of innovators and investors, bold and La French Tech is a whole world in itself. A world that roots in cleverness and innovation. A world that connects entrepreneurs across borders with the French Tech hubs. Each and every talent with the French Tech ticket and the French Tech visa. And this world is booming. With record fundings, in a flourishing ecosystem, with the world's biggest startup campus, and a renowned expertise to meet future challenges. With La French Tech, you can provide yourself with all the means to succeed. You can change the world. You can even become a unicorn, like others before you. Because there is no dream too big to be abandoned. There is no failure, only adventure. Because in France and abroad, impossible is not French Tech.
so we can see that it's very close to what we've heard this morning by Benjamin. Yeah. Okay, so let's move to the second part, which is what we do. Okay. Okay, do you hear me? What did we do during the past 10 years to improve on our ecosystem, innovation ecosystem? What measures did we make? Before I have to apologize because this morning the topic was about young entrepreneurs, and you've understood that I'm mainly talking about innovative entrepreneurs, startups. In fact, in France and in Paris, any entrepreneur, young entrepreneurs or old entrepreneurs, whether innovative or not, can get help. They can get personalized support, they can get tax credit. But with the city of Paris, we decided to focus on our strengths and the specificity of our ecosystem. So we focus on the innovative entrepreneurs. We focus on the entrepreneurs from the creative industries, from the digital content industries like video games, media, music, cinema. But also in the creative industries, in craft, in fashion, in design, all that industries of savoir-faire that are really part of our history. We also invest in social innovation, what we call in France the social and solidarity economy. And we also want to support all activities connected to the ecological transition and all solutions to fight against the climate change. So that's really a choice. So every entrepreneur is welcome, but we invest more in this kind of entrepreneurs, I've said, and that's what my presentation is about. About the tools we had to improve our ecosystem of innovation. The first one is a very basic one for a city. It's creating spaces for entrepreneurs, because I'm happy to see that today we have people like Benjamin, private people that make incubators, but 10 years before it was not the case, so I realized that we really had to invest a lot in buildings to make this entrepreneurship, to give place to these entrepreneurs. So this map is interesting because this is only the real center of Paris. It's only 2 million people living in the center. You see it's about 10 kilometers from north to south. And in this deep center of Paris, you have about 60 different incubators and accelerators today. I'm really talking about incubators. I mean, places where there is a high selectivity for startups, not co-working spaces. And if you had a look to this map in 2008, for example, you would have seen only 5 points. So it's incredible how many new incubators we had in the last accelerators we had in the last 10 years. And if you had a look to the bigger map, you would have seen more incubators, about 100. Some example of incubators with the city invested in. The one on the left is for smart city. The one on the right is more for health innovation and aeronautics. So at the beginning, it was most incubators were connected to the public universities or high schools, and progressively we had more private initiative, and we supported it. I won't show you, of course, the 60 incubators, but I wanted to show you this one because we are very proud of it. We opened it last year. It's called Le Cargo. It's the biggest one. It was the biggest one in Paris until a few months ago. I'll tell you about it later. And it's fully dedicated to digital and creative industries. And it's already full. In 1 year, 15,000 square meters. So there is really needs still for places for entrepreneurs. So in 2008, the deputy mayor promised that we would make in 6 years 100,000 square meters for incubators in Paris. It seemed a big challenge at that time because no private real estate promoter wanted to invest in that kind of buildings with cheap prices for entrepreneurs. But we did it, and we are still investing in it, so now we are about 130,000 square meters. And you see how much it has been increased in the last years. And of course, we did that investing ourselves, the public, but also, as I said, helping the private sector to run their own incubators. For example, you remember I told you about an incubator in the tourism sector. What we do now is we choose a specific topic like tourism, but we did it in sport, we did it in smart food, in urban logistics. And we try to find 4 to 5 big companies that can support the incubators. So with the city, we pay for the walls, and the big companies, they pay for the coaching of the startups. And so it's like what Benjamin said before. And after that, we saw many more private companies invest in private incubators and make their own incubators. For example, Microsoft has an incubator in Paris. You have a lot of banks that made their own incubator, investment funds, of course. And this was until one guy called Xavier Niel, who's the founder of a big telecommunication company in Paris, decided to create the biggest startup campus in the world called Station F. So this big building just opened is 35,000 square meters. So it really changed a little bit the rules of the ecosystem in Paris because it's also very cheap. It's all private, with private money, no public fund. It's a former rail station. It's very close to the center of the city. You can walk from there to Notre Dame in less than 30 minutes. It's fully dedicated to early stage startups. And we are very proud of this project because even if we did nothing for it, because it's again private money, we really think that it's because we invested that much in the incubators along with this 10 years that the private sector is now taking over and that it doesn't need our help anymore. So it's a really cool example of public partnership, public-private partnerships. Sorry. Of course, international startups are welcome in the incubator, Station F. You can check everything in the web page, but of course we can have discussion about it if you're more interested. Talking about incubators, I would like to mention another example just to show you that we are not just helping the tech startups, but also entrepreneurs in the creative industries. So this is an example of an incubator des Ateliers de Paris, which is original because we run it ourselves, the city of Paris. It goes very well. It's already in 3 places. We are opening a 4th one. And last week we had 2 representatives from the Ministry of Culture of Taiwan that went to visit it because they are, since they are interested in doing something like that in Taiwan. Still talking about spaces, we also want students to be able to create their companies while they are studying. So the French state recently created a status for the students entrepreneurs. They can study and create their project at the same time. And we financed the spaces for them to run their projects. So these co-working spaces fully dedicated to students entrepreneurs or in the universities or in other incubators. And it goes very well. We also invest in great research centers where we try to mix the university's ecosystem with the companies. Second tool we used to help the entrepreneurs is also quite basic. It's the idea of financial support. So you have a great number of financial support in France, like in any country, for entrepreneurs. So I won't mention everything, but I will start with what we do, again, the city of Paris. So in 2010 we created a special fund with grants for startups of 30,000 euros for each startup. We put 6 million euros in the fund every year. Half of the money comes from the city of Paris, half of the money comes from the state. We don't choose the startups ourselves. We choose some incubators, and we let the professionals, the incubators, choose the startup that get the grants. And we already financed 1,000 startups with that fund. We are also creating a new capital risk fund dedicated to the ecological transition. And as I said, you have very numerous other financial contributions from the state, from the region, from the cities to support your R&D projects, the real estate, the loans, bank guarantees. For example, in bank guarantee, there is a very important fund, national fund for the cultural and creative industries, with 1 billion euros already invested. But to be honest, the biggest help for entrepreneurs and innovation in France is what we call the National Research Tax Credit, which is known to be one of the best in the world, and surely the best in Europe, because you can cut off your taxes 30% of your other expenses of R&D expenses, research and development expenses. So it's really useful for innovation, whether you are a small or big company. The state, the President Macron promised to create a new innovation fund of 10 billion euros. I can't tell you nothing about it because it's not open yet, but it's an important amount of money, so I had to mention it this morning, but be aware in the next months, early 2018. The third idea is a little bit more original, maybe. It was to transform Paris into a giant urban lab for experimentation of innovative solutions from the company, whether small companies, entrepreneurs, or big companies. So we created a dedicated agency to help these companies to get in touch with the administration to run this experimentation and to find the right field in the streets, in the parks, in the public buildings to make these experimentations in real conditions. And you know how complicated it can be sometimes for a company to get in touch with the right people in the administration. So that's why we created this agency to help to that connection. And now we are doing call for projects for experimentation. So we choose a topic and ask companies to make experimentations on it. For example, the examples you have here is the first one is how to maintain older people living in their houses. The second example is about smart public furniture. The third one is about electric mobility and experimentation, for example, of self-drive vehicle. So that's, of course, a tool to help the companies. I mean, by experimenting in real conditions, they can improve their solutions. But it's also a tool for us to change the way that we have our procurement policy and try to open it, which is not really easy, to be honest, in France and in Europe. This is just to mention that the French state copied on us the city of Paris by doing the same thing. They created their own agency for experimentation last year, so it seems that was a good idea. And last tool we have is, of course, supporting every means to connect different stakeholders, big companies, startups, students, researchers, citizens. First idea, I'm sorry, many of you must know about open innovation, but for those who didn't hear about it, in some words, it's just the idea that the big companies now, they can't rely only on their R&D intern teams to innovate. So they have to get a better connection with the startups and the SMEs. And that's why our agency of economic development and innovation, which is called Paris & Co, created a club Open Innovation, to connect these people. And we have already 70 major companies, mostly French companies, that are paying every year to get in that club and get in touch with the 300 or more startups that Paris & Co, our agency, is coaching in their different incubators. I won't have time for this one. Another interesting idea, of course, of how to connect people are events. Today is a good example. We've been talking about hackathon this morning. So one example in Paris was after the terrorist attacks of 2015, we decided to make a hackathon on security with students from coding school, with big companies like Facebook or Twitter, with people from the public administration of the police, and try to develop new solutions. And some of them are now experimented in Paris, so it was a good hackathon. Viva Technology is aiming to be the biggest startup event in Europe, so it's only the second year, so it's a bit early to say, but well, we'll see how it goes. With the city of Paris, we run our own contest of startups for more than 15 years now. It's called the Great Prizes of Innovation of the City of Paris, and you have a special international awards for foreign startups, so it's possible to apply to that contest. We also, some years ago, launched what we call the hacking of the City Hall. It's a simple idea to let the entrepreneurs, startups, investors to come in our City Hall for a whole day. So we let them go everywhere, even in the city parliament, where normally the elected people vote. So we let them the building, we give them kind of a platform, a website where they can make an appointment for their meetings, and we let the people do the rest, and it's a great meetup on innovation in Paris every year with more than 4,000 people coming. Last part is what do we want to do for tomorrow? What are our main aims for the future? So I would say there are three. The more important one for this morning. The first idea is to keep attracting talents from all over the world. The second one is to give everyone a chance to become an entrepreneur. And the third one is how to transform Paris into a real fab city. I'll explain a little bit more about it later, but the idea is to produce and fabricate closer to the final consumer in a more sustainable way. Okay, so first objective is to get to 30% of international companies in Paris incubators. And you remember that we have now a lot of incubators, a lot of square meters, so getting to 30% of foreign startups in it is a big challenge, but that's what the mayor wants, so we're really working on it. And that's why we created some programs, soft landing programs like the Paris Landing Pack. The French state also tries to attract the entrepreneurs' talents from all over the world with the French Tech Ticket. We also try to welcome better the students in Paris. Paris is a great city for foreign students coming from all over the world, of course, with a great number. And we try to facilitate their hosting in Paris with all administrative procedure in kind of a unique guichet called the Paris Welcome Desk. And we also try to attract great researchers with the creation of an Advanced Studies Institute. You have one in Berlin also, you have one in Berkeley, and we're very proud of it. The idea is to welcome the researchers in the best way for them to work in Paris free, because we pay them, we host them, we give them a house, so it's really cool to get to this institute. I picked that picture from the booklet of the Paris Landing Pack, the program of our agency, Paris & Co, Economic Development and Innovation Agency. And I took it because, as you can see, it's someone from a startup from Taiwan who was speaking. Well, if I look to his name, Clément Dieudonné, it seems that he's maybe French also, but it seems he's very happy with this Paris and with the Paris Landing Pack in particular. So the Paris Landing Pack is programs to facilitate the welcoming of startups in Paris. You have two formulas. The first one is 1 month in an accelerator program of Paris & Co. So you can get in one of the 8 incubators, specialized incubators of Paris & Co. It's free, you can apply 3 times a year, and next application will be in mid-December, so very soon. And the other one is called Paris Landing Pack Invest. It's more or less the same idea to facilitate the welcoming in France to address the European market. So you get offices, a place in the Paris & Co incubator, you get services with Paris & Co staff that helps you to connect with the right people of the Parisian ecosystem. You can get a house, the price is cheap, it's from 2 months to 6 months, longer period, and you can get another 6 months, I think. So that's for Paris, but the French government also launched its own program to welcome startups. It's called the French Tech Ticket. So it's a kind of a contest for entrepreneurs from all over the world. And the laureates, they get 12 months in an incubator for free. They get a grant of 45,000 euros, a big amount of money. They get access to an accelerating program. They get access to a lot of other services. But of course, it's quite hard to get it, because it's only the second season, and we had 2,700 applications, and only 70 projects that were elected. So of course it's hard to get, but it's a cool program. Another tool of the French states is the French Tech Visa. We've been talking about it this morning. The idea is simple, of course, is to help the tech talents and the startup founders to get easily in a faster way a visa to work in France and in Paris. So we have every details on the website, of course, but we can discuss about it if you want later. Second great objective we have for the future is to give everyone a chance to become an entrepreneur. So we launched a program called Paris Code. The idea is to it's a digital training program for unemployed people and uneducated people, because many companies in Paris they need more people with the knowledge of coding, and that's a good way to get jobs for unemployed people. So we have 1,000 people trained every year with that program. French Tech Diversité is exactly like the French Tech Ticket I told you about before, but for the the people of the poorest areas of Paris and of France. So they get also 12 months in an incubator, the grant of 45,000 euros. And the last one is just one example of an initiative to help the migrants. You know, it's a big issue now in Europe. I understand it's also something important here in Asia, to get to launch their own businesses. So we have every initiative that helps the migrants to be entrepreneurs. We also want our kids to get that entrepreneurship mind from very young. So we created this event called Option Startup, which is 2 days every year, where we open the doors of our 60 incubators in Paris, and kids from every school in Paris can come with their teachers and visit the incubators and meet the startups and have discussion with them. So it's really a cool program. And last goal we have for the city of Paris is to be a more sustainable and resilient city by have more local production than we have today. What we call it's what we call the Fab City. So you may know what Fab Labs or Makerspace are. It's like workshop where anybody, citizens or entrepreneurs, can create their own prototypes with 3D printers, with numerically controlled machines, with every tool they need to create really concrete objects, I mean hardware. So we have about 40 of them now in Paris. We are very happy about it, and we help them to develop. But we want to go much further and really have more companies and entrepreneurs that really will produce more in the center of Paris in a more efficient, energy efficient way, in a more innovative way, in a more sustainable way. So that's the aim of the Fab City. We know we are quite far from it. It's a big challenge. So what we did was to get part in the Fab City network. We are one of the 20 or so Fab Cities now in the world, with the official label from the Fab Foundation, founded by the MIT. So we are with Amsterdam, Barcelona, or Detroit, for example. And we will host this summer the greatest event in the world for makers or Fab Labs, which is called Fab 14, with the Fab City Summit taking place in Paris on the 11th, 12th and 13th of July. And you are really welcome. Everybody is welcome from all over the world for that event. And we want not just to have the Fab Labs ecosystem, but also to have the real companies, whether they are big or small, that can help us to get to that aim of more local production in the city. And we will have during this event a campus of we call the Fab City campus of demonstrators, prototypes of the Fab City in an open-air showroom that all public will be able to go. So please, if you have this kind of demonstrators of solutions for a more sustainable and productive city, contact me, because I will be interested to have a demonstrator living in our campus. Before ending, this picture was during the Web Summit that Benjamin just showed us a picture also before. This is our mayor, Anne Hidalgo, the woman, and she's receiving, that was 2 weeks ago, she's receiving a prize of 1 million euros by the European Commission for the prize of the most innovative city in Europe. It's a contest for all cities in Europe, once every two years. So we have now the official title of the more innovative cities in Europe for 2 years. And for that event, we made a short video that I will show you, if it works. But I'm frightened now.
是比较
Thank you very much. Well, if you have any question, I'd be happy to have a discussion with you. And 谢谢。
谢谢 ，Thank you, Mr. Francois Moreau。非常谢谢 Moreau 带来这么精彩的分享。